Last time on Storm Corey HQ, we broke down just what makes Starfire such an iconic character in terms of her character arcs, backstory, and personality. But we barely scratched the surface in terms of her appearance, aka the obvious first category. So let's address the elephant in the room, and let's talk about what makes her so iconic visually. Now it will be so easy for me to go, well, she's iconic because she's sexy, but that's not what we do here. At Storm Corey HQ, we dive deep, and there are very few characters who I would like to dive deeply into more than Starfire. But Animane, I hear you ask, what makes you qualified to talk about what makes Starfire so iconic in all her different versions and designs? Well, aside from being an absolute simp for Starfire for over 2/3 of my life, I also know a little bit about character design. And when I'm not simping for my favorite mainstream comic waifus, I'm actually making my own comics. Here are some of the characters I've designed. Note, designed, not drawn. I'm a writer, not an artist. But we'll talk more about my characters another time. But across the 4+ decades worth of design she's had, there are 5 that stand out above the rest. Let's start off chronologically with the very first Starfire appearance with the New Teen Titans comic book version from 1980. There are rare examples of knocking it out the park on the first try, but I believe that New Teen Titans Starfire, who I'll just call NTT Starfire from here on out, definitely fits the bill. Right off the bat, we see several staples of Starfire's design which would become iconic instantly and would be repeated over and over again throughout the years. This is how she was envisioned by her creator, the late great George Perez, who described her initial design as Red Sonja in space. Depending on which interview you're reading from which year, he's listed everyone from Marilyn Monroe to an ex-wife to a Puerto Rican dancer / stripper, even a porn actress. A lot of these interviews are taken from magazine snippets and clips over the years, so verifying what exactly is and isn't a reference is kind of a daunting task. But regardless of which woman you're looking at who served as a reference or an inspiration, it's clear that it paid off. You have the humongous 80s curly big hair, which leaves a completely impossible contrail when she flies. All the versions of Starfire where her hair leaves contrails, those are definitively and objectively the best ones. Then we got this bikini space armor, which instantly gives off warrior space princess. That trope was all the rave back in the day. Same thing with her humongous hair. It's big, it's curly, it has volume for days, weeks, months, years, and millennia. I love all the different details on it, from all the different textures on her collar and her bracelets, to all the different little grooves on her boots and the jewel in the middle of her chest. It screams alien, warrior, and princess all in the same time. And the fact that it's so revealing actually communicates 2 core elements of our beloved koriand'r's personality and backstory. She's a Tamaranean. Tamaraneans are a very emotive and expressive people who love honest emotional expression at all times and have sort of a free love sort of society while also having a history of being deadly warriors. Doesn't that just perfectly describe OG Starfire? She's an alien warrior hippie princess. That's what this design says. Alien warrior hippie princess. Even Corey's facial features here really communicate who she is really well. She has full lips, a cute round nose, and big expressive eyes. Eyes that, despite having no pupils, still give tons and tons of emotion. The striking green pupilless eyes radiating out of her golden skin. Her face is also drawn in a way that when you zoom in on it, you feel like it would almost get creepy looking into her solid green eyes, but it actually becomes more inviting. Now, remember, she is still a warrior, so there's also that intensity, but it's an intensity that's almost like, I feel everything at all times, and you are going to know it. Beautiful. But let's move on down the line to Cartoon Network Starfire. This is actually the first version of Starfire that I was introduced to. Same goes for most people in my age range, because most of us didn't grow up with the Teen Titans comic books. So the Cartoon Network cartoon is actually when we first met most of these characters outside of Robin. But as I got older, I would learn that it's actually kind of controversial because it's such a distinct change from her original version. And this abrupt change is something that a lot of people actually weren't happy with in terms of fans of the original comics who have been reading them throughout the 80s and 90s. But to be fair, considering how she is a teenager and this was now a primetime television show aimed at kids, it makes sense why they made so many changes. And it still works. She even still has elements of her OG design that are a bit more subtle, like her bangs here. But there was one change that was made that I think, for me personally, keeps this version from being one of the best. Where the contrails, man? Trash. I'm just kidding. This version is not trash. I would be trash if I were to call this version trash, because while it's not on my personal favorite list, I can't ignore how iconic this look is. In terms of non-comic book versions, this is the one that you're going to see cosplayed all the time. You're going to see it at every con. You're going to see it on every cosplayer's TikTok page and Instagram feed, because this is the one people remember. They're going for that recognizability. It's been 20 years since Teen Titans debuted on Cartoon Network, and it's still referenced as many people's favorite version to this day. This version is so iconic that it was recreated faithfully for the Teen Titans Go cartoon, albeit adjusted for character proportions and whatnot. So we can't deny that fact. But what we do have to do is move along, because we still got 3 other entries to go. Okay. We're here now. It's time to talk about the new 52 version of Starfire. This is by far Starfire's most controversial appearance. Yes, even more controversial than the live action version where she's played by Anna Diop, which I'm not talking about this time because that deserves its own video, which I'm already planning, so make sure you subscribe so we break that one down. Now, there's a lot to say about this version. Personally, I don't care for it. In my opinion, a lot of the different iterations of Starfire sort of play on different aspects of who she is. Remember, she's an alien, warrior, hippie princess. This version relies heavily on the hippie part. Actually, I don't even think hippie describes what this is. This is just gratuitous and, in my opinion, overly done fan service. And that's saying a lot considering Starfire is one of my favorite characters of all time, but this one I think just goes overboard. Like, she just has these random lines on her breasts which are practically just pasties. Then she has this random collar with shoulders on it that goes nowhere. The outfit just doesn't make sense. Like, I know there are going to be people watching this video who prefer her to be more covered up versus, say, NTT Corey, but at least that outfit made sense in a space warrior hippie princess sort of way. Like her arm bracelets, like, oh, you could see her like blocking a sword or energy blast with those. The boots look like if she kicks you, they gon' hurt like hell. With the new 52 version, I honestly can't tell you why she's wearing anything. Like, look at these boots, just trash. Like, what is this? I can't give this design a complete F because at least her hair has the contrails, but that's really all this version has going for it. It's only on this list because it's infamous, not because it's actually good. Up next, we got Starfire from her 2015 solo comic book series. This one is starting to go in the opposite direction. Before, we had a version of Starfire that damn near wasn't wearing anything. Then we have this one, which is way more covered up. This one actually shows off a different take on Starfire's design, but one that I think really works. She's not nearly as revealing, but it's still clearly something that you could see Starfire wearing. We got some exposed midriff and thigh, while her breasticles are safely covered up. Also, this version of Starfire started to have more dark orange skin versus the bright orange/gold of the classic version and the really dark, deep orange of New 52 Starfire. This one is like tangerine orange, and I think it really fits. No shade to the OG, obviously. I stand that one. No shade to the Cartoon Network version either, but those versions, she has a skin color that's still almost human. In the OG comics, she would often be mistaken for being Mediterranean or just someone with a deep tan. This one, there's no mistaking she's an alien from the skin alone. Also, I just love her face in this version. It's really expressive and it can portray several different emotions the closer you get to it, because that's core to Starfire. She's a very emotional person. I mean, just look at her face here. It's soft yet fierce. She looks like you could go out for drinks, have a nice night on the town, go dancing, but just make sure you come correct no matter what you do, because if you piss her off, then you're gonna get this Cory. Also, they brought her pupils back. I feel like this version was intentionally characterized and designed to be a bit more in line with her Cartoon Network version. Don't quote me on that, it's been a while. So yeah, definitely a win for this Starfire. And last but not least, we got to talk about her Rebirth version, which debuted in 2017. This Starfire, I think in terms of modern Starfire appearances, is the best. Admittedly, it's one I'm not super familiar with because I don't read a whole lot of the modern comic books, but just from the pages and panels I've seen, it really works for her. From a visual design standpoint, it actually covers her up even more than the previous one. Now we have no midriff, and we just have some upper thigh, buttocks, and shoulders. But it's also proof that you don't need to have a super revealing outfit in order for it to look good. The colors work well and the designs. It's a darker shade of purple than she usually wears, but then they really lightened her skin tone, so it's like a trade-off in a sense. It really works, and I think for modern comic Starfire, this one reigns supreme. It's no wonder why so many cosplayers flock to this version, and I think it comes right behind Cartoon Network Starfire as being the most cosplayed version of Starfire. So there we have it, her 5 most iconic appearances. And to close out the video, I'll show a couple runner-ups who aren't nearly as iconic as the ones on this list, but I think deserve a shout out. I really like the way she was drawn in the DC AMU, and it was a perfect evolution, in my opinion, of her OG outfit from the cartoons. She is showing off a little cleavage here because this version of Starfire is actually an adult and leading the current Teen Titans. Also, she has a magical girl transformation sequence in one of the movies, and yeah, I love this scene purely for artistic reasons. And then there's also her Injustice 2 outfit, which I have to include on the list because it's the only appearance that's been purely in the video games. This one, in terms of her like facial features, her hair, I think is on point. The only reason I didn't include this on the list is because the design of the outfit itself is kind of... I mean, it's not bad, and you can swap out pieces of her outfit for different variations which have different looks, but I don't know. I think it's the white patterns on her chest. It's just kind of like there, and it doesn't really do anything for the whole outfit, but overall, still a very good design. And that's gonna be all for me today. Thank y'all for watching and checking in. This has been Storm Cory HQ, your one-stop shop for all things Storm and Starfire. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this list and tell me which one is your favorite.